guys, Daniel James here, and today what we're going to be doing is taking a look at Spitfire Audio's new library, Abbey Road 1, which is their new all-encompassing orchestral package which contains strings, brass, woodwinds, and percussion. The way we're going to do this is the way we've been doing recently is we are going to be doing Avin a look, which is where we're going to crack open the library, just go through the sounds, play with them a little bit, and see what we think, see how they sound. As you can see by the rather chaotic nonsense down here, we are doing this live with a live chat room, and they are enjoying the moment that they are on YouTube, so I do apologize for what is going on there. But anyway, without further ado, let's take a look. So as most of you know, this is it's not the Sign player, the Spitfire player. Does it have a name yet? Does it have an official name? The Spitfire player. But anyway, so what we're going to do, as I mentioned, this is having a look. We're just going to open it up, have a play with some of the sounds, see what we've got. So right now it's on the default patch, the orchestra. So let's just play some chords, see where we go. Okay, the first thing I'm noticing is I wish I could slow the attack. Sounds really nice down here. Like, yeah. Like that's the problem with all-in-one like packages like this. If the attack is too strong, it starts to sound like General MIDI. It starts to sound like the old school Eddie roll stuff, you know? Like I need the option to carve off that attack. Like that's going to be my biggest gripe throughout, I think. And it has, like this is the thing. So I never thought that Abbey Road would ever allow people to record orchestra in the room, right? So regardless of what this library is, I was going to be buying it anyway, because the fact that Abbey Road is allowing people to record orchestras there is exciting to me. However, I can already feel the Spitfire-ness of this library. And by that, I mean it has the two distinctive Spitfire problems where it feels like at maximum it's going up to like an MF. like at its loudest, it's going to MF. And the other problem, the other Spitfire thing is it has that sucking effect where the notes just end. These ones are actually not as bad. But what I would usually do is just up the release. You see, you up the release, you see how much better that flows when you play? But you see what I'm saying? Like, even if you're like, you think it still sounds synth there, ambient jazz, because you add the release, it makes it better to play. But the other thing I need is like a slower attack. But yeah, like these all-encompassing orchestral ones always tend to sound very synthy. But you see what I'm saying about the MF? Like, for some reason, Spitfire dynamics, and you guys have seen me talk about it. There's something about orchestras, and I don't know whether it's hyper-realistic, but like I recorded recently with Budapest, and they were able to capture it within the music that I was writing. So I don't think it's even a scale size, because, you know, we had 40 string players. And so I don't think it's a scale problem. But it's like, when you get up into these higher ranges, I mean, there it doesn't sound too bad. But it's here. Like, for some reason, the way that they record them, when you push the mod wheel all the way up to the top, it doesn't feel like they're pushing into the F register. Like, if I was to do that, for example, on, I don't know, like, let me load up, like, Cinebrass, for example, because it's the first example. So, like, on the 12 horns, I know 12 horns is a bigger section, but let me just show you what I mean, because it's the best example. So this is about where it tops out for Spitfire, whereas this is what I expect afterwards. There's like a zzz that comes in. So that's about where Spitfire finishes. And then there's just an extra zzz at the top, and just to show that it's not like a Spitfire thing. Like, you get the same thing from the horns in you see, and it's like, when we put it on this, it's like it loses a zzz on the top, which it's always been a Spitfire thing with that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, I've always considered this type of sound like almost hyper-realistic. Like, when I recorded in Budapest and I had the strings, they had that extra, you know, when they were playing F, it felt F. So maybe it is just like, that's doing it. That's not. And again, it may be doing it in the room. And I'm not saying that, like, you know, because this is always the issue I run into when I say something like that, is people will say, but that they were playing an F. It doesn't matter whether or not it sounds like it. They are playing an F, so that's an F. And it's like, okay, but when I listen back to it, my emotional reaction, my emotional response to that is that it's not gone all the way. It's like there's more up there. Move over to some staccatos. Now, the staccatos I am impressed by. because it has, this is the shorts of this library I think are going to be by far the best bit, because they're going to give the sound of Abbey Road, which is the main reason I'm into this. I'm not going to finish that phrase because, you know. This is not the... Dun, dun, dun. You can't really go. So if I was to go like... Because of the... Why is this an instant buy for me? So this is an instant buy for me because I genuinely never thought we would get an Abbey Road library. I've recorded at Abbey Road before, and it has a sound which not many other libraries do. It's a much bigger... It's how did I describe it last time? It's like the difference between violins and cellos. It's room size is sort of important in the same way that the body of a cello or the body of a violin matters, right? So when you... Like, sound isn't necessarily the generator that it's on. It's also the resonator that it comes with, right? So if you have a string and you bow it and you have a body the size of a violin, you get a higher pitch and a faster vibration, a faster resonation. When you have a cello or a double bass, that extra space has a slower vibration and it has a bigger, more, wider sound. These are all things... these are all emotional connections we can apply to other instruments because it associates with our voice recognition. So we can tell a deep, boomy voice from a high registered. Like it's, it plays with parts of our brain that just give us an understanding of the world beyond things like just how things sound. So with Abbey Road, the hall is massive, right? Even compared to Air, even compared to, like, Sony's a big stage as well, actually. But it's a big room and it has a very distinctive tone to it. So it's sort of like, if you have Air, that's like your viola. And if you have Abbey Road, it's like having a cello. And so I have, like, the way I work with libraries in general is I tend to... layer them. And so I'll have one that's doing like the close mics or all the defining instruments. And then I'll have libraries that I layer on top that give the sound of the room. So for example, if I was to do that with, it would be with something like LA scoring strings, right? Let me pull up LA scoring strings. It's a very dry library. And let's just pull up Legato. Well, let's do the spiccato while we're here. So we put that as well on the cello. So you see, like, how just adding that, if I take even the reverb of my room off, right? See how that cello instantly feels like it is transported into Abbey Road because I'm using a spiccato that's recorded in Abbey Road. So I'm getting the bloom off of the spiccato strings from Abbey Road. So they're sort of acting like a quasi Abbey Road reverb, if that makes sense. So I'm using the natural reverb. And what I could even do is take that further and turn off the mix and literally just use this as like tree and outriggers, So that all I'm getting is the sound of the room and then play the two together. But if I was to do that, I'd need to do it with like low strings. So I'll set that up again. So that's why someone like me, this is an instant buy for someone like me, because I never thought I would get the sound of Abbey Road. Goodness me, that didn't come through as clean as I thought it would. Maybe I need a little bit close. So you get the sound of Abbey Road. And we'll just lay this in. Am I on the longs? No wonder it sounded shite. Thank you for pointing that out. I was like, Jesus. Right, and so we take this and we just balance it into the reverb. So it's almost like we're mixing a dry mic. So you see that? So I'll just do that again. So I'd probably do a balance like that. And you see, like, if I was to then, like, compress those together, so if I just compress 2A. We'll just put a 2A on it for now because I can't be asked to deal with shit. But then you compress those two together. So you see there I have the power of a close mic from a library that is distinctly clean, very, very easy to hear what you're trying to do rhythmically, but I'm also getting the complete reverb of Abbey Road in the background. So that is why, for me personally, and like I'll go into my conclusions as to who this is for and stuff at the end, but like if you are like, this is one of the main reasons I could see people picking this up. Like in a weird way, this library seems more aimed at professionals than it does hobbyists. You know, and I'm basing that on the content that you actually get for how much it costs compared to the competition. But because of these microphone positions and the fact that it's recorded in Abbey Road, I'm sort of looking at this as a quasi Abbey Road reverb unit. That's how I'm looking at it, because it doesn't have enough articulations within it. Like, that's something worth mentioning, and I'll mention it now up front, is this library only comes with the most basic of articulations. It comes with longs, shorts, and then either some swells or like something slightly different. It doesn't have a lot of articulations, which really is unfortunate. Like, that upset me a little bit. It's, you know, because I wish it had everything. You know, we always give Spitfire shit for the flautando, but I was sort of disappointed I didn't get my flautandos or my edge of silence nonsense on this. No legato, you know, no individual instruments. And when you've got things like Jaeger, when you've got things like, oh, I mean, like, we can go down the list. When you've got things that fall into this category, so we've got like Aria falls into it. There's Cinematic Studio Strings, doesn't really fall into it, does it? But then even like Albion 1 is another one that has more than it. You know, the Metropolis Arc things. Then you have the Cine Symphony Light. What's the Audio Imperia one called? What's it called? Oh, I've forgotten all the names. There's Jaeger and it's Aria. But that's what I'm saying. It's like these all-encompassing packages or inspired by orchestral tools. You know what I mean? It feels like, I don't know, not that they've cut corners. It's like, I just wish that they took this opportunity to record at Abbey Road and then do more with it, because it made me genuinely excited that they're going to be recording there. Oh, wait, no, we don't want that. We want Abbey Road. Right, let's put it back on the mix position. Oh, it is on the mix position. One thing I noticed, by the way, is that like, we were at half a gig, but when I put these mics on, that jumped up pretty significantly. Right, so I had a tree, an ambient, and outrigger. How much does that take it up to? Not too much. Oh, that's not too bad at all. Like, that is why I'm buying it. Listen to that. It's the short notes in this that I think I'm going to get the most use out of, because they are the most defining of the room sound. Oh, fuck. Hey, C3R13. I can't read that. Thank you for subscribing. Man, there is such a delay on it. You know what I mean? I'm going to have to record that in. But yeah. such like, that's what I'm saying. This is such a beautiful sound. This is an amazing sound. I want more. Like, I need the legato. I need the extra range. I need that. Just fucking go for it, Spitfire. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to blow the roof off. You've been given this beautiful opportunity. I'm also hearing, I mean, like, this is probably just going to be because we're in this, but here. I'm hearing resonances, but that might be my room, so I'm going to ignore that for now because it didn't seem like it. So scratch that. Cool. There's like... Okay, let's try the swells. So these are just... Yeah, it's going to be because I'm on the orchestra patch for sure. Moving on to the next section. So first off, again, just only a small little bug, but I wish we had like an ensemble, like high strings, low strings. I understand it, but if you're making an ensemble like library like this, just give me the ensemble option as well, because in order to do high and low strings, I'm gonna have to load 2 instances of the player. That's another thing that like isn't insignificant, but I won't dwell on it too much. I really wish Spitfire would add multi-timbral support to their libraries or to their engine. You know, it's the only one now that doesn't have it. It's the only new library. It's the only company that doesn't support multi-timbral instruments, which to me is insane because there's so many benefits to doing multi-timbral work, such as this, being able to load the high and the low strings into a single patch. If I was doing this in Contact, I would just load both and put them on the same MIDI channel. Whereas here, not really much I can do with it. You know, you're shit out of luck. So you'd have to load 2 instances in order to have both. Anyway, let's play with some high strings. Can you hear the sucking effect? The sucking effect is just listen to the melody and listen how the line just dies out when I change notes. You know, that's yeah. So for that, again, every single time I have to do a release, and I know I crimp on this every time I do a library, but this is an unnecessary click. Like, this doesn't look messy. Having these icons here doesn't look messy. It actually balances it out because you have information on the left but nothing on the right. So by having stuff here, it actually looks like it's left balanced. So, you know, it looks like it's weighted to the left. You could have these here and it balances the UI so that you don't only have content on the left. It just adds an unnecessary click. And I imagine there are people who don't even know that you have to click this in order to change a thing. But anyway, I have to up the release to get rid of that lagging. What? Okay. That's got to be a bug. I'm getting like, it's like playing twice. Better. You hear that? It's giving me like an extra note when I let go. Weird. Some of the notes are giving me like, some of the notes are just repeating when I let go. You hear that? Dun, dun. You hear that? I'm not getting a release note. I'm getting another note when I release. That's got to be a bug, right? Can someone tell me, is that a bug? Yeah, that's got to be a bug. Yeah, so when I'm releasing, it's like as if the release tail is turned up to the same volume as the note because it goes da dun. Like, how am I finding this on my first playthrough? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm finding this the first time I'm playing through the patches, how did they miss this in quality assurance? For those wondering what I'm talking about, by the way, so a good example of a company that does it pretty well. I mean, like one of my favorites is the Cinematic Studio Strings. So the way they handle release is pretty nice. It just feels... Everything just went really... Oh, maybe it's because Spitfire's really quiet. Okay. So you see, I'm not holding a sustain pedal. So you hear the... Like that, right? Right? Crank the mod wheel. You see how it fades out. So now we do the same with this. Yeah, and just to compare the release tail style. Oh, that's the... I'll try and get them to comparable volume levels. Oh, fuck, I keep going to the wrong track. So I'm just going to play them the same thing directly one after the other and just listen. So Cinematic Studio Strings release. But it's also that gentle attack. So like Cinematic Studio Strings does something clever where the harder you push it, the more of a like marcato attack it gives it. So very soft, but hard. Oh, but soft. Whereas Abbey Road, you're just sort of... What pops are you getting? Sorry, what pops are you getting? There shouldn't be any pops or clicks or anything along those lines. I will turn my gate off if that's a problem for you guys. There we go. I'll just turn it down like that for now. Right. I apologize if there's clicks and pops. There's not much I can do about it. I do get a lot of CPU clicks and pops from the library, but not that often. Sounds fine on your end. Okay. So I'm going to ignore it. If you've got clicks and pops, it sounds like it's on your end. Yeah, it's definitely this. We're hitting at 25 CPU. Okay, let me just load up. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to use 2, and I'm going to play the high and the low together because that's what I do in real life. I'll make sure we're just on one microphone, and we'll do like a stress test. Right, let's just close this. Let's do a stress test. See how we're getting on, because I did feel some clicks when it was playing. So let's have a look. Let's just keep an eye on the CPU then. We both on longs, both on single mic. So does this CPU show, will it show the combined? Yeah, let's just try it on one, see if it does. No, so the CPU only shows the one I'm on. Okay. That sounds cool. So the one thing I did notice there was definite clicks and pops. When I looked at the CPU, both of them were around 30, which means it was only going about 60% of my CPU, but that seemed enough to make it click and pop, which worries me because if I'm hitting clicks and pops with just the 2, if I have a full orchestra, what am I looking at? And that's the thing that annoys me because I really like the sound. Right, so let me set up that mic position that we had earlier. So we had like a little bit of vintage. We had the ambience around here. We had the outriggers pretty high, and we had the tree high. And we'll bring in some... Well, and actually, we've got the vintage that's doing... The vintage isn't close, I don't think, but we'll keep a similar vibe for both. Let's see how it handles doing the mic positions, because this is one of the biggest selling points. So if I'm hitting 30% CPU per instrument, what's going to happen if I wanted to use the mic positions? This is my test. We'll turn off the mix. We don't need that. Right, let's get a similar balance tree. Is that what that looked like for me? Sort of the ambient was a bit further down, wasn't it? Right, then we'll go back and we'll change this. Ooh. Vintage to be about the same. There we go. So now let's check them now that they've both gone up. Well, okay, so there's 4 gigs of RAM now for these two, which is fine. Right, let's see what the CPU does now. Like, that's the problem. Like, that is a problem. So one of the big selling points of this library is the sound of the room, which means of all the libraries and all the times I've given Spitfire criticism for having too many microphones, it was because we already had them. We had the sound of Air Studios covered with microphone positions. So every string library didn't require 80 microphones, right? Abbey Road is one of the first libraries of theirs where I'm like, all the microphones you've got, give them to me, because we don't have this room. This room hasn't been captured before. So the more positions we have on it, the better, right? Because the room sounds incredible. I can tell when it's not clicking that this actually sounds incredible. That is a beautiful sound, but if the CPU can't handle more than 2 patches with the microphone positions, then it's useless. Like that's the problem I'm having with this engine. If this was running in Spitfire, I genuinely feel like it could probably handle this. That's a bold statement. It doesn't exist, so of course it's only ever going to be speculation. But I feel like, or conjecture, what's the word? Where I'm just like, I feel like that would be the way, but I have no evidence because, you know, it's not existing. It doesn't exist, sorry. So what I'm saying is that, like, that sound is incredible, and I just wish that the engine could fucking handle it. Or Sign Player. The thing that Sign Player does, which would be invaluable here, and whether they can license the technology off of Orchestral Tools, whatever they have to do, mic merging. I would love to be able to make my own mic mix and then save it as a mic position. You can do that in Orchestral Tools Sign. You set up because I think they understand that running this many samples is always going to be heavy on the CPU. So let's make the customer be able to record and sample down their own mic mixes, because as you can hear, like I'll try not to trigger it by changing notes, but listen to how beautiful this room tone is. By the way, notice I'm holding 3 notes there and I'm not really moving. Look at the CPU. And like, the thing is that, like, I know people will be like, well, DJ, not everyone's just going to play block chords. And it's like, well, it's an ensemble library. So with that lack of having the individual part, and even then, you'd still be playing the same amount. In fact, it would be worse with individual sections. I mean, look, that top one's at 100% CPU. And before anyone gives me shit, I am running these off of SSDs. That's so annoying. Like, because I want this to be amazing. Like, I'm not gonna, like, the thing is this isn't me shitting on Spitfire. I'm beyond that part of my life. This is me being critical because I want this to be great. I want this library to be great because I never thought I would get an Abbey Road sample library. And so to have it in my grasp but not be able to use it correctly is disturbing to me. And I need them to fix it. I need them to fix the bugs. I need them to fix this engine so that it's an actual viable tool. Because if 2 patches and more than 1 mic position is triggering the CPU spike, I can't use it in my projects. I can't use it in my projects unless I'm freezing it down. There's nothing I can, like, you know what I mean? There's no way around that. It's like either you use the mix positions, which is actually taking away the aspect of why I would want to use this in the first place, which is so that I can use the mic positions to use this as a room tone. Like, that was the one saving grace that this library has for it, is that even, like, it has the most basic patches, but most professionals I feel like most professionals would probably use it like I would. Like, I doubt that any pro is genuinely going to be replacing their thousands of dollars of string libraries that are set sections designated for one, you know, like dedicated first violin libraries. This isn't going to replace anything. It doesn't have enough articulations to replace any professional composers' libraries that they already have, right? It's not going to be good. For it not be good is subjective, so I'll take that back. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be a difficult sell for someone who doesn't have a library already, because yes, it's Abbey Road, but then they also have the BBC Orchestra, which is about the same price as this, but has like twice the amount of content. You know, so it's not going to them. So the only people I could see buying this, like legitimately like wanting to buy it, are people in my situation who have a lot of libraries but love the sound of Abbey Road and want to add that on top of their productions by using the mic positions and stuff. And if that aspect of the library is unusable, then who is this for? What is this for? Like, who is this aimed at? If I can't use the mic positions without hitting that CPU, I can't use it as a layering library, because then I have to consider the fact it's using up 30% of my CPU just to use the mic positions on one patch, which makes it unusable. So, I mean, lots of rendering down, sure. And I mean, this is running off an SSD, so I'm not sure what I can do with this, because the mix position, whilst it sounds great, isn't what I need it for. I need it to be more roomy, because I want to apply this as an Abbey Road layer of production sound, because it doesn't, that's what I'm saying, it doesn't have the articulations to be a main library, so therefore I'm using it as a layering library, but it fails at being a layering library because I can only really use the pre-mixed microphone position before it starts to become a burden on my CPU and resources. And when I'm programming, the last thing I want to do is be dealing with clicks and pops just so that I can have the sound of Abbey Road. So I won't. And that is a problem for me. So I want them to fix it. I want them to make this great. I want them to make it so that I can have all the mics on and there's no CPU hit. They may say that's impossible, but if orchestral tools can figure out a way around it with their mic merging, I have faith that the big minds at Spitfire can figure out something similar instead of coming up with an excuse as to why it is the way it is. How about we look at the competition who is finding loopholes, finding ways around these massive problems and actually delivering? Let's go with that. Let's go with that. Let's move on. Let's make world better. Anyway, let's move on to the spiccatos. Oh no, we got long CS. So let's try these out. So for now, I'm just going to stick it on the mix position. There's not much I can do with that. I mean, people are saying, but DJ, what? Okay, let me load up like 16 versions. There's so many versions of Cinematic Studio Strings it takes to do the same. It could, I've never run this test, so it could be the same. But so I'm using 2 ensemble patches. So let's see if 2 ensemble patches matches it. Let's put on what all their mic positions are on. So this doesn't really have the mic positions in the same way, does it? But anyway. So you can mess the balance. So it's going to be slightly different, slightly unfair because this isn't loading all the mic positions. Put these on one. So like 3%. But then let's load up. Just load up a whole bunch of these. How many we loaded? 5. Well, 5's a good... It's going to be so loud. Okay, I'm going to put some on harmonic. I mean, we got up there, but it wasn't quite the same, was it? Yeah, with the single mic position, this handles it so much better. So it's like the bit of the library I want to use is stuck behind, because if I add more mic positions, it like exponentially raises the CPU usage, which is terrible. I can't I can't do it. Anyway, let's play with these long. Play a patch using all the mics. Okay. Let's try it. High strings. High strings with every mic on, except the mixes. That's a bit unfair. Like, I could see situations where you might use like a little bit of close and then pop right. Do we have a pop left? No. And the tree mic down here. A bit of spill mic. Oh, it actually really is quite nice. And like, the reason I'm still playing, by the way, is people will claim, like, whenever something like this happens with me and with the Spitfire library, people claim that I'm making it happen. I'm just playing chords. Like, I'm not making this happen. And so, like, obviously people will say there's things you can do to make it work, DJ. Like, you're doing it wrong. You could do this, this, and this to make it work. And it's like, sure, but every other library that I have from every other company doesn't require me extra steps in order to make it not do that. You know what I mean? It's like, if there is a way to make it not do that, they should just make it not do that from the get-go. It shouldn't be a requirement of the customer to figure out how to make it actually work, you know? And remember, like, this is one patch. I mean, it's all the microphone positions, but it's one patch. So that's slightly unfortunate. But let's go back to single mic positions, because as much as I like my Rice Krispies there, I'd rather have less crackle and pop in my life right now. Topical joke. This sounds great. Like, and that's the thing that bugs me. Like, when you're just holding notes like this, and you're hearing the room, the beautifulness, the tone of the strings, the quality of the microphones, life is good. At this moment, you have a library recorded at Abbey Road, and it's a string library. You can hear the loop points. It's fine. You hear them loop points? Interesting. So, like, life is good, but then the second you start changing notes and notes just die out, You know what I mean? It's like that the way the releases just don't naturally fall off the way that you expect them to kind of bugs me a little bit. But like, this is the consistent I have with Spitfire libraries, is they always seem to be inconsistent, as if no one actually checks them, as if they record the samples, they put them in an automator, they map them to their engine, and no one even plays with it afterwards. Like, we found the release bug on the strings on our first playthrough of it. Like, it's impossible that no one... Surely someone on the test team tried changing the release at some point. Or when Albion 1 came out and all of the, like someone in the chat says, there's no phasing in this one, but do you remember all the percussion was phasing? And it's like, surely someone would have noticed that. And that's what disturbs me, because it has been, like, if you've been following the VI control thing, is Abbey Road won't let anyone else, I think it's the same with Air. Abbey Road and Air won't let any other developer record samples there out of loyalty to Spitfire, is what I've been told. So only Spitfire can record in these rooms. And the thing that annoys me to no end about that is they seem to keep half-arsing it. You know damn well if Orchestral Tools, Cinesamples, Audio Imperia, Audio Ollie, Jasper Blunt, anyone was allowed to go in and record in Abbey Road as well, you know that they wouldn't allow themselves to let these little silly mistakes get through. You knew there would be no way that they would allow their release tails to sound shit. There's no way they would allow their legato to be shit, because they would understand that the competition would probably pay attention to that, and then they wouldn't have the best Abbey Road. Right now, the only reason Spitfire is making the money through Air and Abbey Road is because they have an exclusivity deal. If any other company was to go in there, I guarantee they would raise the bar, and that would be good for us as composers. Whenever people fight me on this, they always defend the developer's position. The developer 100% wins from having an exclusivity deal with this studio. The people who lose are us as consumers, because it allows Spitfire to make like half-assed, like, well, we're not going to have all the articulations. We're just going to have high strings, low strings, and they're just going to do longs and shorts. We don't need legato. We don't need this, because we don't have any competition. So no one's going to beat us to it. We can take our time. We don't need to fix it. And it's just horrible. And that's the other thing, is that, like, you have to remember, musicians make royalties off of this. So by having an exclusivity deal, they're also stopping other musicians being able to record sample libraries there. And I'm not putting this on Spitfire's shoulders completely. Like, it's the studios saying that only Spitfire can record there. That's such an odd decision. They'd make more money from royalties if they allowed more people to record there. More musicians would be allowed to get royalties from being allowed to record in those rooms. There would be competition for the sounds of those rooms. So there would be a competition for who would be the best Abbey Road library, who is the best recorded at Air library. I want to see that competition, because that means that those libraries would be pushed to be better, because you don't want to be the worst one, because of the amount of money you invest in it. You don't want to be the worst Abbey Road library. So what do? You make it good. And that is good for us as composers. Exclusivity deals, great for companies, bad for composers. Anyway, moving on. There's just all these things that are outside of the actual library that bug me about this library. Both of them on together. It's going to get quite loud. Sorry, I'm going to push it up into the higher dynamics now. What happens if we like have one doing, let's have the highs doing that and the lows doing trems. See, this sounds amazing. This right here, beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, that is a beautiful sound. My first instinct, though, the thing I want to do right now is load all the mic positions on it and listen to it in the room, which I'm going to do, but I'm not expecting, like, I'm not keeping my hopes. I want a vintage mic. I love the idea of the vintage mic. I want a tree, and I want an outrigger at least. Please. Please give me this. Allow me this indulgence. You feel that, like, the 3D-ness instantly comes in. I need access to these mic positions, Spitfire. Christ's sake. But, yeah. It's the way things end. Give me them release. Like, the Spitfire player definitely needs multi-timbral. It definitely needs attack and release. Like, I can use that sound in a million places. Still resonating. Piano? Oh, the piano was still resonating. Nice. So yeah, the tremolos are beautiful. I had that only on the highs. Let's do it the other way around. Let's try. Let's put this one back on the mix though, because we were starting to get the clicks and pops, and I'm like, no, not today. Right, let's turn all these off. Dink, dink. Right. So we'll put the trems on the highs, and we'll put the consort on the lows. Yeah, the loop points are a little bit crap. I always feel like high tremolos are too aggressive to like play things with. Yeah, I've never been a fan of high tremolos, to be honest, unless they're doing horror. But they sound great on the lows. That's the first thing everybody wants to play. So let's just do a line that is. Yeah, sure, why not? Let's go with that little line. It almost sounds like Born because of that little... But what I actually wanted to do was have that be in 16th, so we'll just shrink that. So now we'll play with the shorts and the strings. Let's see what we got. So I'm just going to do this 3-3-2 thing because you guys know it and it's easy. Bam. So this will go. We'll do the thing. We'll just do the brostinato for now. Just get a vibe of the swells. Get a dynamic vibe, and then we'll go loud on the second one. Is it just me, or does that sound a bit loose? Okay, so there is good dynamic range there. It's on a weird curve, like it goes up particularly quickly. You know what I mean? Like the velocity curve is slightly. I think we can change that though somehow. Transpose, reset, round robin. I think there is a way to change their velocity curve, perhaps. Maybe. Anyway. Right. Like, that sounds good to me. Now if I just bring the general vibe of them up. I actually want to put it because one of the key things about these is the mic positions. Like one of the key things about short notes is it brings out the room. So we're gonna brave the clicks and the pops to have a listen to what it sounds like. Hopefully we make it through alive. Right, let's tighten this fucker up. Let's see if tightness does anything. Yes, it makes them sound fake as fuck. Okay. That just to me makes them sound fake. So, I mean, the tightness was already at 50. So, should we dare pull them down? What happens if we turn the 50% tightness off? Do they sound more real, but more shit? What's the rules here? Okay, I need to test the tightness. I need to test the tightness of these. Turn up. Okay, what are we off by? 50? 50 is the normal. Not too bad. What are we off by? Does anybody know what the official off by is? Notice by the way that like you don't really get any of the, you can't really hear the undersound until it's like here. I mean, you can, I guess. Which is good. You don't hear a difference between, okay, let me put it to 0. Okay, I'll just... Right, that's at -50. This is it at 0. It's close to -30. So it's not that far. Maybe 45, what? Oh, sorry, yeah. My bad. You just happened to say 50 at the right time. 35? No, that's too late. So it'd be like 50, I guess. I'm calling for it a standard. We need a standard in the industry. If you put short notes and there's an offset delay, you have to put on the articulation by how much, because it's fucking impossible. Da-da-da. Do. And fine. Not too bad, actually. Pretty decent. Go down that far. So what would that be like really soft? Like if you had like a whimsical kind of run, then you kind of went like that. That's actually really good. So like, for example, for that, you would do that and then like underneath you would have like. You know what I mean? Like that would work quite well, actually. Credit where it's due, guys. Credit where it's due. Right, and then let's just say they had like a like that, you know, just some sort of like brostanato over the top that's just doing the same shit, but like that. But it's got its own waves, which kind of go, you know what I mean? So these ones wave in and out of the other waves. No, wait, I fucked that up, didn't I? So they're going to there, so this would be like this. There you go. These guys go up to the beat like that. And it's different from the other one, which is going the opposite. Yeah. Sounds shit. I like it. Right, it's way too loud though. We'll turn it down. And we'll turn everything up. No, it sounds awful. I take it back. We'll just stick with this. If we have to, we'll throw it in octaves. Go away, bad idea. That jump is a little pronounced. And like someone said, I feel like everything below 50 is irrelevant. Like everything below 50 is the same. But anyway, so... But you can see how well they work together, so I'm impressed with that, actually. But again, a lot of this, I think, is down to how beautiful the Abbey Road sounds. Like, it's just the room comes through so nicely. So let's put the low strings doing pizzicato. Does the offset fluctuate between different velocities? It's not supposed to, but I feel like Spitfire always tend to have loose kind of strings anyway. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it just sort of some of the round robins are like not quite perfectly in time. It always seems like. Pizzicato's doing their thing. Right, so while that's playing that, let me load up a high... What are we on to? Now we're on the trumpets. Okay, so let's pull in some trumpets while that's playing its little thing. Trumpets, man, without the fucking legato. God damn it. They sound good like that. Okay, so the strings are pretty practically like like it's a weird velocity curve. I just want to compare that to something that I'm used to quick. I think we can change the velocity curve. Let me just put it on like on this. Let me see what the velocity curve. Turn down to like 0. So let me just put that up to normal. Now let's put it on those. I mean, and that's what I mean about like the looseness. So if you listen to the attack of cinematic studio strings, listen to how you get at the beginning of every note that feels natural. Right? And it's just, you don't kind of, you get it with some of them, and then others just kind of fall into the others. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. It's like Spitfire always seem to do this. It's like the Spitfire always tend to have their round robins on their shorts just be out of time with each other. It's like, I feel like every other library that does it right is like handcrafting them, whereas this feels like they just drop the samples into an automator. Now, they do have the tightness thing, but the tightness thing... Instead of moving the transient or something, the tightness is literally just cutting. It's just cutting off the beginning bit. So you're getting... It's not even like... You're not even hitting the transient. It's just literally starting the attack within the note somewhere. Again, full tightness compared to... That's cinematic studio strings compared to full tightness. I mean, I don't know. The thing is, the sound of it's good, so I could just layer the two together. And that's the way it would work, you see? Like, I'd probably layer the two, so I'd be using Abbey Road as, like, the reverb for my normal strings. So anyway, let's move on. Where were we? We're on the trumpets, so let's... Right, what I'm going to do is, because I like doing it, I'm going to use the long string CS. Let's set up a... Goodness me. Goodness me. I definitely want this in the room. So I'm going to do my same setup that I liked. So it was a bit vintage, outrigger, and tree one. I guess they couldn't hit that note soft. That goes quite nicely high. Now that sounds good, but again, the sound's dying too quickly, so I want release, like all of it. Like, and that's the other thing. I need the attack because these come in. That crossover point's a little there. Marcatos sound good. New door. Is the release tail just dying on that? Sort of, not quite. Oh, I can't even change the release on that. The swells is such an interesting thing to record because I'm never going to use it. Legato I'll use. Yeah, I'm definitely going to use the shorts. That's going to be a consistent for this entire library. The shorts are probably going to get a lot of use out of me. Because they give the room of Abbey Road, which I fucking love. Let's move to one of my favorite instruments, French horn. So I'm going to give this some vibe. Hey. It's so funny. In BBC, the horn was their worst instrument. In Abbey Road, it's one of the best. That is by far the most beautiful sound I've heard in this library so far. But also something I wanted to point out is that doesn't go up to F. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. You know what I mean? At most, a comfortable MF. And again, just for comparison's sake, I'll load up one of the bigger brass libraries. Legato patch, so I can't play more than one. It doesn't have legato. I mean, that's an ironic way to show it, but yeah. That's what an F sounds like. And then... And that's what... I mean, I know it's 6 versus 9 horn players, but it's like there's that upper dynamic of F which we've become accustomed to, and like it's like an MF. It's almost there, but it's like that. I'd say that's comparable, right? So that is comparable to that, but this has this. You see what I'm saying? There's just almost like another world of dynamics above where Spitfire seems to record for some reason. I've never understood why. And that's the thing. That's why I took an extended moment to play the French horn like that. because Spitfire excels at this type of brass sound. That was a horrible line, but the tone of this is warm, it's wide, it's beautiful, it's got the sound of the hall. But I don't feel like it goes up to F, which for me, someone who writes a lot of effing F, you know, like I need those layers. Let's compare that to a staccato from OT. Tonally not that far off, actually. It's just this is really fucking quiet. Yeah, they're comparable, these ones. But it's almost like I don't know why, it still feels muffled. But again, the one thing I love, every single staccato note brings with it the 3D-ness of Abbey Road. It sounds so good. I know it sounds like an Abbey Road. That sounds stupid when I say it, but I don't know how to describe it. I've heard brass in Abbey Road go crazy. Star Wars goes up into the F register. I've heard many things go up into that buzzing range at Abbey Road. I've never heard samples do it because it's the first time I've heard samples in Abbey Road. But I disagree with Abbey Road has a dynamic ceiling of MF. I refuse to accept that. Why is that cut off? What is this patch? Can you hear that? That's like cut off. Can you hear that? It's like, what? It's like there's a cut off. I haven't got the tightness up or anything, have I? Oh, that's their own tightness. But with the tightness at the default, it cuts off the attack. Why? Like, that is not acceptable. That sound is not... It's like... It's almost as if there's no brass sound. That's fine. So remember that even at the default tightness of the Tenuto patch, it's going to cut your sound off. How about the Marcato? That sounds great. You hope someone from Spitfire will watch this? They probably will, or at least the word will get out that I've said these things. But the problem is, and historically the problem is, whenever I say these things, people disregard them and just say that I'm a hater or I'm on a crusade. But it's, you know, you guys can see it for yourself. Tightness down on this one as well. All right, Chaz at 106. Beautiful. So I like the Marcato patch. The Tenuto patch and the Marcato both need the tightness turning off. Otherwise, it... What about the stick? Yeah, just whatever you do, don't keep the tightness on the brass up. It just makes it cut off the attack. Right, let's move on to the low brass. All right, I want a bit of tone for this, so. This is a really good sound. Yeah, this is really good. Okay, I'm just going to have to do the trick. For those of you, well, let's duplicate this. Those of you who don't do this often, it's a good practice, or at least it'll always sound good if you combine low strings with low brass and then play a line. I'm going to turn the low brass down at the volume level, though. That's it at 100 back there. Right, being as though this is so dense and low, let's give this some mics. Lord, have mercy on my CPU. May you see us through another adventure of the Spitfire mic positions. Here we go. All of them. Oh. This Affa swag just promoting himself. One way to get timed that, bro. I mean, why do people do that? This is such a good sound. This is an F. This is like a contextual F. Too much, bro. Too much. Bring it down. Sounds good, right? No nice ending on the end of that one. What? It's such a beautiful, strong sound, the low brass. And it really helped having the mic positions, although I had to be very, very careful and very slow about changing the notes because the clicks and pops were coming in. But it was so worth it. So what I would probably do, like the annoying thing is they're going to force me to work around their bugs. Because Spitfire tends to do this thing where they put out a library, they'll maybe patch it once, and then they don't patch it again for like a year and a half. I remember when BBC SO was going to be the flagship. This is going to be their big thing. Everybody's going to share projects. Everybody's going to be... That all died out pretty quick, didn't it? Had a few bugs. They maybe did one release, put out some of the patches that should have been there in the first place, and then they've just never gone back to it. Released another orchestral library, and this one has problems, and that's what worries me. It's not so much that they do it, it's that they keep doing it, and it makes me worried that I'm going to have to deal with the situations. So that brass was incredible, but what my fear is that I'm not either A, going to be able to use it, or B, every time I use it, I'm going to have to freeze it down. You know what I mean? Every time I do this, I'm going to have to flatten that down to audio because the CPU, like to get the mic positions that I want to use. And again, I have to emphasize the point of this library for someone like me, someone who has, you have to remember, a library like this is never going to be my first instrument. Like Jaeger wouldn't be, like Cinematic Studio Strings isn't even. I don't have like a go-to library. I have lots and lots of libraries that do lots of things very well. So an all-encompassing library that has the basic articulations like something like this, like Abbey Road 1, I'm never going to use as an actual normal library. I'm not going to use it to write pieces with by itself because I have too many things that do what it does considerably better. Like they focus on it. That's the point of them. So the only reason someone like me would pick this up, I think, is for that Abbey Roadness. The Abbey Roadness is what's unique and what's special here. And in order to get that, I need those mic positions. And the mic positions, if we can figure that out, I think this will be a much more useful library for someone like me who already has a billion string libraries and brass libraries. But anyway, let's get some woodwinds in here. So let's get some high woodwinds. Let's... So, I mean, what you're listening to right now sounds incredible. I would use this. But I want to use the mic position so I can make it super 3D. And I need it legato. And I think I said it on Discord, but the best way to describe this library is cock tease. It's like, look, this is what an Abbey Road library could be. Rather than here is the best Abbey Road 1 library we could do. Because we can all... Look, if we're all honest with ourselves, is this the best that Spitfire could do at Abbey Road? It's not. We know they can do better. They've done better. We know that they can do wider articulations. They do more articulations. We know that they can make libraries that have mic positions because they have libraries that have mic positions. So it always disturbs me and bugs me when we get a new one and it's the same old problems. And that's why we need them to have competition. Because if they were competing against or orchestral tools or a Cinesamples or an Audio Imperia, this wouldn't happen. This cock tease of a library would not happen because it sounds incredible, but for all functional utility in a professional environment, it's almost useless. I can't use the mic positions as well as I'd want to because it rams up the CPU too quickly. I can't use the articulations because they're too basic. They don't, like I don't have even control of the attack and decay. These are things I need in order to make them work with all the other libraries. This works if you're only going to use this library because it works with the inconsistencies of itself. But it doesn't, just because it works with itself doesn't make it compatible with other libraries. I had the same problem with BBC, is it's very compatible with itself, but not anything else. I mean, not anything else. That's definitely hyperbolic, but it has a tougher time than other libraries, I should say. And that's what I'm saying. Every time I listen to this and it sounds stunningly beautiful. Why would you have a library that sounds so stunningly beautiful and make it so stunningly unusable? Listen, how amazing that is. But it's the things like the release cutting off. What I would normally do with things like this is put black hole in them, which completely defeats the point of using Abbey Road, but... Like, I'm not denying how beautiful this sounds. Listen to Abbey Road just singing. I slipped on the mod wheel then. Like, no one's denying how incredible that sounds. But that's what I mean by it's a cock tease. It sounds incredible, but it doesn't have the articulations to make it usable over other things, and it doesn't have the CPU usage capabilities to use the mic positions. So I'm stuck with the mix. What I'll probably do, actually, I think my loophole for it will probably be that I will just use the outriggers instead of having... So what I'll probably end up using is like... So if I go to the short string. So what I'll probably do in order to make it fit in my thing... But this is a loophole. And again, loopholes are not acceptable. Just because I can make it work doesn't mean it should be this way. They should figure this out. You know what I mean? So I'll just put like the outriggers on. Or a tree. You know what I mean? So it's just a room mic. And also whack the release up to 1,000,000%. Just give me some... And the thing is... when you increase the release... When you increase the release on a Spitfire library, it just it doesn't extend the decay, it feels like. It extends the hold. So if you know ADSHR, right? You know how they work in general. I'm not going to explain it because it's a whole thing, but So usually, if you increase the release, you expect it to increase the decay time, the amount of time it takes to decay. If you listen, what it sounds like it's doing, it sounds like it's just increasing the amount of time after you release it that it goes to the decay, which would be the hold. Listen. And then it drops off a cliff. Right? Whereas Cinematic Studio Strings one, for comparison, you see, it fades out. And I know people say that's not realistic, right? But in the sampled world, if you're playing, it means I can change notes . You can use the mod wheel to decay out instead, but you can't do that per note. That's what I'm saying. The reason it's a problem is when I'm doing this, and if I want to just change the melody, there's more. Well, I've got the release all the way at 100 right now, but if I was to do that like this, actually the release is high now for some reason. Oh, I'm on the high strings. That's why. Can you hear the release of the high strings, by the way, still? That's completely cut off, but yeah. I wish they would just let the room ring out. Whereas, just a fade, like, yes, not necessarily realistic, but definitely better to play with. More fun to play with because it's less distracting because the notes aren't just cutting off. That is beautiful, by the way. Where were we? We're in the Woodwinds. Could definitely use that. Lovely. Right, let's put it on the low strings, see where we are with this. It could be that. Those, the attacks are cut off. Even then they sound cut off. Like, were a lot of people looking for these types of sound? Right, yeah, we don't need to go over those. Wasn't hyper impressed. Right, perk. Okay, so we don't need the string playing on this. So these are just going to be a case of listening to them. Where, oh, where? I mean, it sounds great, but that is so fucking quiet. Bro. That feels like it has like a fake sub under it. Click the things, there's some options for release. Short releases, none. Timed. Okay, let's try timed. If this fixes it, by the way, why isn't that on all the time? That's so annoying. Mind you, the short releases weren't a problem for me. Like, that wasn't the problem. It was the release on the longs that was a problem. But yeah, this is like a super soft island hit. Now, these are incredible. Like, these for me are almost worth the price of it. Having drums recorded in Abbey Road is amazing. Probably won't use this one too much. Oh, goodness. Right, so what's your dynamic rule here, Spitfire? What are the rules when it comes to dynamics with this fucking Spitfire engine? Sometimes it's super quiet that you need to turn it up to 400. Sometimes it's fucking too loud just to be at normal. Oh my God. Normally I would agree with you, but then I remember Albion 1 and its phasing percussion. Toms. Right, there's too much MIDI wankery going on, so I need to program that in. So if it was like this, it'd be like, well, we'll get it doing straight, and then we'll do it straight for 4, and then we'll do 3, 3, 2. I like it. Yeah, this is really good. Horrible rhythm, but beautiful sound. Try the dynamic. Yeah, I can wholeheartedly recommend the percussion. Right, let's try this with some microphones, because if there's one thing drums are all about, it is the microphones, much like brass, which rely on the room in which they are recorded to sound good or bad, I think. In an orchestral setting, not necessarily. You can have dry drums that work. That's a complete lie down. But in an orchestral setting, dry drums wouldn't fly. Not at all. Try this with these mic positions. Yeah, I am totally into it. Like, what is with this dude? What is with this guy? Like, I timed him out, but now we'll just ban him now. Like, I don't understand people that are like that. You know? Like, what's he trying to do? It's like, even if someone went over there, the fact that you're needing to come to other people's streams in order to promote means that it's probably not going well. I imagine it's not helping. Then we could maybe fade down. Downwards like this. That is so good, guys. Although, like, we don't hear a lot of these interdynamics until, like, around here. Someone was saying it earlier. It's as if all the MIDI under 50 is a bit too quiet, but the sound of the room with these drums is fucking awesome. This is just the toms. Bass and snare. Yeah, so don't use this one fast. This one's an accent. How about toms and octavans? And that's what I'm saying, like, for things like percussion, where, like, a lot of what I'm calling the Spitfire wankery, you know, like, sort of facetiously, but, like, almost half seriously as well, is percussion usually isn't affected by it because it doesn't really deal with, like, sustained release times. You know, you hit a drum and then it does what it does in the room, you know? So percussion is hard to fuck up, and it's thankful because even just a few mic positions seems to be settling okay with this. I mean, it's still 10%, 15% CPU for one instrument. So, you know, if I had 10 drums, that's it. I'm fucked. But, there's those snares. Yeah, their snares are loose like their strings. When I said they're it felt like I was going to go into a crude joke then. Like, their snares are as loose as their, you know, insert random offensive family member name there. Yeah, it feels like some of their round robins are, again, just slightly out of time, slightly annoying, but we can make... Well, Chaz, look up here. So I'm doing one instrument that's doing... You have to remember, I've got 3 mic positions on. 3 mic positions, one instrument playing 16ths, garners 15%, no, 20, 18, I guess. I saw 18. Like 18, 19% of the CPU for one. So if I was to, like, duplicate... Let's just put all of these on shorts. And see, like, if it can handle all the 16ths. Seems to be fine. Yeah, doesn't seem to have a problem with that. It seems to have a problem with stacking voices, though. So if you're doing lots of legato, struggles. But no, the fucking percussion sounds awesome, so let's keep going on that. Well, it means we'll end with some positivity, which I enjoy. Cool. This is actually a good way of showing it because it shows the dynamics and how well it does the speed. Do we have custom rolls? No. You see, like, maybe I'm spoiled. Maybe I'm spoiled for choice, right? But I feel like if you put in cymbals, you need a cymbal swell. They have sustained cymbals, but... Or suspended cymbals. You know what I mean? I feel like we need the cymbal swells. They had them in Hans Zimmer percussion. So I don't understand why they don't. Like, that's the other thing. They keep innovating in some of their libraries and they're not passing the technology onto their others. Like cymbal swells is a technology they had in Hans Zimmer percussion. There's no reason they didn't add it other than they just didn't want to. Like, or they didn't have time to, or they didn't dedicate to it. But it's like, if you're going to add cymbals, why not just add the swells? Give us the full... I mean, unless they're going to sell it to us later. Like, that's my biggest worry, is that a lot of my issues are going to be things that you have to microtransaction down the road. Like, I already saw that they announced, what was it? The low string legato and what was it? Some woodwind thing. It's like, why are they not included? Why is the low string patch not included? Like, it's Albion 1. Like, it's as if they made... I almost think what we're going to get is the full Albion 1 articulation set, but we're going to have to piecemeal purchase it, so that they were like, well, if we release Abbey Road 1 as the full kit, it's going to be another few $1,000s for people to buy it for us to make our money back. So how about we release one that has fuck all articulations, but is a cock tease, because this library is a cock tease in the biggest, the most succinct definition of the word, is a cock tease, because it shows you what the library can be, but doesn't give you the tools with which to utilize it to its fullest. Anyway, let me get through this and then we'll come back to that. Otherwise, I'll end up going on the rant now, but we're close to the end. Well, that's the thing. They may have recorded a choir, but I feel like that's, instead of just giving us that as the package, which is what they did, Orchestral Tools did with their, like, Inspire or their Metropolis arcs, or, you know, Cinesamples had all the stuff. It's just like, I can feel that we're going to have to pay more for stuff that we feel like should have been included. Right, let's go to some tonal percussion. So percussion was that just, yeah. Yeah, we just did that. That was the same. That was the same, but spread out. Tune. Okay, we didn't do these. I wonder what that sounds like with mic positions. Have a little look. Free mic, maybe outrigger. Quite beautiful. Now, we don't have many articulated. Xylophone. This is the sound of student composition. For some reason, every single, like, student... there's a sound to student composition. And for some reason, they fucking love the xylophone. It's always like... It's like action movies from the 80s. But I guess that's the what, like, it's the education is always going to be a few years behind the actual trend, so I could see why that would be. Oh, it's a John Williams thing, is it? And then timpani. Oh, this doesn't sound bad at all. beautiful sound. And then the final patch of the day, the Ensemble, which I believe is just everything we just did spread across the keyboard. Let's listen to that in the vintage. Let's go a little crazy. Let's have some tree. Let's have some ambient. Let's put a little bit of spot on there as well. I'll find out for you how, Valor. It's just got the room sound of Abbey Road. Like, so the percussion, 100% going in my template because it's just got the sound of Abbey Road. So it will add that to my percussion section and thus will add it to the overall tone of the whole thing. I'm glad they finally did it as well, Leon. Is Spitfire historically don't usually provide ensemble patches for percussion. I mean, they didn't provide it for the strings or the brass or the woodwinds, which I really hope they do. But anyway, so yeah, on that rather bombastic note, that is going to bring us to the conclusion. So you guys have heard me play through all of the sounds in the library. Now, first off, let me preface this by saying this sounds fucking incredible. In terms of the room tone, when you're playing the spiccatos, when you're playing the short notes, when you're playing any patch or instrument which shows off the space in which the samples were recorded, this library begins to shine. When you're in the percussion, when you're in the spiccatos, when you're on the staccatos, the room tone is there. When you're on the sustains, I feel like you need to bring in some of the roomy mics in order to bring the room up a bit. I mean, that's just because of the way that sustains affect the air. It's a more sustained thing, so you're not hearing the reverb as clearly as you would with a single hit and then the sound coming back. However, as you saw, any attempt to use more than 2 microphone positions introduces CPU spikes of around like 30. Well, it was between like 30 and 50% CPU spikes, which by itself, if you're using as a solo instrument, fine. Like I gave Bohemian Violin a pass for that, because if you're going to use the instrument, you can give something like that a pass because you can render it down. So like an old school, like British technique of committing, you just commit to the sample, you record it down to tape, you bounce all the tracks onto track 4, like you just commit and you go with it. You could do it that way. However, it's sort of becoming a recurring theme with Spitfire that in order to use them at their ultimate, you have to find some sort of different way of using it other than just loading it and using it. We still don't have multi-timbral support, so even being able to use a string ensemble, I have to load it twice. I have to load 2 Spitfire players just to have a string ensemble. For a library which is designed for ensembles, that seems like like an oversight. I feel like if the point of this is to be a sketch pad and just the easiest way of doing it, you've already made it more complex by having me load up 2 instances of it, which are going to have their own microphone positions, which are going to have their own volume levels. So you're already making me balance shit out just because you haven't made the ensemble patch. So with those CPU spikes, as you saw, when you have just one patch using 3 mics hitting around 50 CPU, if you have 2 patches, both hitting 50% CPU, you're out of CPU. And that is only using the Spitfire player. For those wondering, I am running this one off an SSD, so this isn't a bandwidth problem. This is an engine problem, whether it be a problem with the engine and the Mac, because I know people on VI Control like John G, who never seems to have a problem with anything. And he always receives free products from everyone. But you know what I mean? It's like they never seem to have issues with it. Whenever I post, this just hits my CPU, I'm often met with a lot of response of, well, it works fine for me. Well, as you saw very clearly, it didn't work for me today, and I hit those spikes. So there's not much, you can do other than work on the engine for that. Because if it's a problem with streaming the samples, then you need to improve your streaming engine or stop promoting these as libraries in which you can use the mic positions, because you cannot in any practical sense. Like, you can't use them within a session if they're using up 50% CPU to use more than a few microphones. And again, whenever you watch the walkthroughs, they always conveniently miss that out, or they're like, well, I'm just using a laptop or whatever. I'm using a 12-core Mac Pro with 64 gigabytes of RAM. 2 patches shouldn't be giving me full CPU spikeage. My buffer is set to 2000, so I don't think it's my buffer. If someone's going to call out my buffer's at its highest. It always is. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, we can't keep letting these engine problems just slide, because they are making the libraries unusable. Like I said, the tone of this library is incredible, so I want them to improve it. I want them to go away, and I want them to figure out how I can use all the mic positions. As we mentioned, like, you can't just use the excuse of, well, that's just what the computer can handle, or that's just what it is, because Orchestral Tools came up with a solution. Their solution was mic merging. You set your mic position, and then you render that out as a new mic position, so you only have to use that one, which is a combination of the others. That's a way around it. That is a useful tool to get around the restrictions of hardware. I granted, I know you can't make a sample library for future hardware because no one has it, but you can find ways around it which makes it easier for us. You can't just say, well, it's impossible. You can't just say, well, that's the way it is. Like we had with the release notes. We heard all those little, like, it's a Spitfire general vibe that they don't have long release tails. Whenever you let go of a note, it stops, and it feels very, very robotic that way. Like you heard, the tightness cutting off the attacks, and the release, even on some of them, was adding like another sound coming through, like with the strings when we put the release up. It was literally triggering the sample again so that we were getting a delay, which is fine if this company was like a new company. If this was some company that was just getting started and they had these problems, fine. This is over Spitfire have over 30 libraries with strings in them now. The fact that they still haven't figured out how to correctly do attack release, like legato, well, this doesn't have legato, but you know, their legato comes out, they have issues, is worrying to me. And that's why I always call for Spitfire to have more competition. As it was mentioned on VI Control, other developers have tried to record at Air and Abbey Road, but those studios apparently, this is just me saying what I've heard, so I don't know how true this is, but apparently they have exclusivity deals with Spitfire, or they want to stay loyal to Spitfire, which is terrible for us as composers. The fact that they're not allowing competition into those rooms means that Spitfire has a monopoly on London rooms, and they have no incentive. They have no incentive to improve the release times. They have no incentive to improve, because they're able to compete on brand name alone. Because I bought Abbey Road because it's the sound of Abbey Road. I want the sound of Abbey Road, and it sounds great, but the library itself is not practically usable. But if you had another company in there competing with them, you know damn well that they would either improve their library to at least compete with whatever the competition was doing, or at least, or they would be resigned to being the worst Abbey Road library. No one wants to spend all that money and be the worst, so it's in their interest to not allow the release times to be a delay. And you know, I found this on my first walkthrough. The first time I turned the release up, I was hit with a bug. How did nobody at Spitfire Quality Assurance find these things? You know, like, why is it always me that points out all the problems with these things rather than their internal QA fix them so that I don't put it out? Because I get accused of pulling things out, or like noticing things that no one else does, or you know, giving them a harder time. It's like, no, Spitfire seems to be the only one that keeps doing these problems and not fixing them. And then it's someone like me who fiddles with it and then finds a problem. People are saying that it's my problem. I caused the problem. Not Spitfire. Spitfire infallible. Like, I love Spitfire. I love the sound of this library, but they need to be better. And the fact that they have exclusivity deals with the halls is what makes this so annoying, because this library is one of the biggest cock teasers. It sounds incredible. It's unusable in an actual use, like an actual practical setup in the kind of world that I live in. I mean, you may be different to me. I know that not everybody is a composer. For those who don't know me, I'm a video game composer. I've worked on Hollywood movies as well. in the kind of environment that I work in, this library I don't think is a practical tool to use because of the flaws that it has, because of the release flaws, because of the CPU flaws. But the sound at the same time is incredible. If I could have a contact version of this that worked a little bit better, I would take it in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? And so, like, I'm always split because people think that I'm having a go because, like, I don't like the company. It's irrelevant what I think of the company. It's the tools themselves are what I care about. And it sounds incredible, but I can't use it. That bugs me. So I want Abbey Road, I want Air to stop being so protectionist of Spitfire. Allow other companies to come in and record there as well. And not only will we get a competing product which looks at Abbey Road, which looks at Air in a completely different light and gives us something fresh, it means that Spitfire will all of a sudden have an incentive to improve all of those libraries that they've neglected over time, said that they'll go back and fix, but just haven't. It'll give them an incentive to get back. And not only that, if you allow other companies to come in and record at Abbey Road, that gives more musicians, that gives more London musicians an opportunity to earn royalties. By having an exclusivity deal, they're saying only the orchestra that Spitfire uses is deemed worthy enough to earn royalties in London. Anybody else, fuck you, because we have an exclusivity deal. We are loyal to Spitfire. And I've heard this from multiple companies now, like offline, so you can take that with a grain of salt if you want, but you know how interconnected I am with the sample world. I've heard from multiple developers that they have tried to record at Abbey Road and they have tried to record at Air and been rejected for Spitfire. And when Spitfire is putting out libraries like this, where you can tell that the sound is incredible, but everything else feels like it's half-assed, like there's hardly any articulations, the mic positions are too CPU heavy. What is this library for? Who is it for? I would even recommend Albion 1 over this. I would recommend any of the other Jaeger libraries. I would recommend Cinesamples over this. The only people I would recommend this to are people who are already professionals, have extra money they can spend and want to get the tone of Abbey Road as a layer over their other libraries. And even then you'll have to do bouncing down because of the CPU spikes. So, like, whilst this is harsh, it's harsh coming from a loving place because I want this to be good. I've wanted an Abbey Road 1 library for almost the entirety that there have been samples, and this is a little bit disappointing to me. We need more articulations than this. We need more consistency. We need more stability. We need more options. We need multi-timbral. You know what I mean? Even the most basic engine things, we just need them now. And there's no good reason as to why they're not having them other than Daniel James is on a crusade. Like, whenever I put these forward, it's always just disregarded as people being haters, people ranting or whatever. But I think you guys have seen this. I think I've gone through it enough times today that you can see for yourself the potential that Abbey Road had, the sound that Abbey Road had, and then the quality of the library in which it came in. I know this is harsh, but I feel it needs to be said. They just need to up their game. If they're going to be considered a premier sample library, they need to start putting out libraries that live up to the brand. Because right now, they are literally getting by off of brand name. Hans Zimmer strings without the Hans Zimmer name, would it have been as popular? Abbey Road 1 without the name, would it have been as popular? Had they recorded their strings in any other studio, would we be saying that Spitfire is the greatest? A lot of the reason Spitfire get the reputation they do is because they're bringing the sound of those London stages to us, which is an important thing. But because they've sided with Spitfire exclusively, it means that people that I consider better at certain sampling realms, there's certain developers I think are great at sampling certain things. You know what I mean? We're not getting the best product. So when I see people defending them, always look, are they defending the developer or are they defending the composer? Because if you're defending the composer, we want more competition, we want more innovation, we want more creativity, we want more consistency, we want more stability, we want just the basic options. We want, like, there's a standard. You can't slip below the standard now and just expect people to be happy with it. Like, I am disappointed in this library because it doesn't have the most basic thing. I knew it had a basic articulation, so I'm not disappointed in that regard. I'm disappointed in terms of the way it's worked, and you saw like how poorly it worked for me today. So in conclusion, sounds great, doesn't work. It can be improved, so I'm not writing it off completely, and I recommend that you keep checking in on Abbey Road to see how it's doing. My biggest fear right now is that most of the content has been chopped off to sell to us piecemeal, so that we're going to start seeing like French horn legato, $50. First violins legato, $50. You know what I mean? And it's just going to be like this kind of thing where we're just going to be inundated with what we should have got for the $400 for this, which I reckon once everything's all said and done and we end up with the Abbey Road modular collection, it'll be about the same as one of their Albions. I reckon it's probably going to be the same, except they want you to spend more money without asking you for more money up front. They're just going to piecemeal it at us, microtransactions, and you can quote me on that if I'm wrong down the road. I reckon that's what we're going to see. So yeah, lots of potential, but it's not quite there for me. I've seen other reviewers really liking the tone in the room. I agree with that 100%. The room tone in this library is incredible. And that's why I said on Discord, and I'll say it again, this library is the definition of a cock tease. It sounds amazing, and you can hear how amazing it sounds, but you can't use it. You can't use it until you've invested another $1,000 in microtransactional legato patches, until it's actually worthy. And I wouldn't be surprised if down the road we see an Abbey Road 1 complete collection, which will have all the piecemeal things, and it'll be set at the price of what maybe the BBC, and that's what we should have got from the beginning. But no, instead they need people to fund it from the get-go. Arseholes like me who buy in with the hope of getting something fantastical and ending up with another Spitfire. It's okay. It's not bad. It's not great. It's just okay. And that is unfortunately my experience with Spitfire this far. But anyway, on that rather depressing note, I do like the sound of the library. I'm going to repeat that. The sound of the library is great. It has potential. I just need Spitfire to be better. And if people watching this listen to it and like the way it sounded, but can't agree with how the technical part of it, get on to Spitfire. Push them to be better. Because if they can fix a lot of these technical aspects that they shouldn't be dealing with after doing 30 string libraries, they shouldn't be dealing with these problems. If they can fix these fundamental schoolboy errors, I think we are going to be in a much better place with Spitfire in general. I think right now they're hanging on brand name, and they really need to up their game, because I'm seeing the stuff that Performance Samples is doing. I'm seeing the stuff that Audio Imperia is doing in terms of technical software, in terms of programming, in terms of things other than just putting a microphone in front of an instrument, which are pushing the bar far beyond what Spitfire have. I feel like they haven't improved their development skills since like 2012. You know what I mean? We've been in this same Spitfire conversation. I have, at least, this same Spitfire conversation for so long now. It's getting tired even to me. I know you guys got sick of it a long time ago. But anyway, that's just my feeling, and you are 100%. If you disagree with me, by the way, on anything, you're allowed to do so. I am just saying this is my opinion. And again, I always just reference it. It's like it's up to you whether or not you value my opinion on these things. Go look at my Twitter to see how I speak to people. Go look at my IMDb to see things that I work on. Watch some of my YouTube to see the type of the way I write. If you are challenging my opinion on something, go look at the reference of where I'm coming from, the context of the world in which my brain and my ears live in. And when I compare it to this may be great for someone starting out, but you have to remember, I've been a professional now for like 10 years, and I've been one of the voices of sample libraries probably from the get-go. I was probably one of the first YouTubers. So when I'm being harsh, it's not to be hyperbolic, and I'm not what do people say? They say that I'm trying to get popularity. I'm trying to skim popularity off Spitfire. I don't care about any of that. If I was trying to skim popularity, don't you think I would probably be saying positive things if I was trying to skim off their popularity? But this is the thing. I feel like my opinion is worth listening to, but I'm never going to tell you that you have to listen to it. So if you disagree with me, you are absolutely within your right to do so. Please don't tell me that my opinion is wrong. You can give me reasons as to why you disagree with me, but to avoid all of the usual Spitfire arguments, these are just my opinions. These are just the opinions based on how I have operated in this industry for 10 years. These are just my opinions based on how I work, which is not the way everyone else works. I don't use a conventional template setup, for example, like most people do. I work in a blank template and load as I go. Just things like that. That's why I say, if you want to know whether or not you value my opinion, just do some cursory research on who I am and what I've done before, and then you can decide whether or not my opinion on sample libraries is worth listening to. But anyway, on that note, if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for sitting through that extremely long rant, and I hope you enjoyed this Avin a look at Spitfire Audio's Abbey Road 1. Great sounding library. room for improvement. But anyway, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is where the video is going to end. If you're watching this on Twitch, don't go anywhere. We will be carrying on for a little bit longer. But if you're on YouTube, do make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, whatever YouTube requires of you to make sure that you understand or you get my videos when they go live. But anyway, thank you guys for watching today, and we will see you in the next one.